Well, hey everybody, this is Chris DiFurio with Keys to the Shop. Welcome to another edition of Shift Break. Today's episode is brought to you by La Marzocco, and they've been creating espresso machines by hand in Florence since 1927, and their whole brand is built on dependability, quality, consistency, and truly listening to and serving coffee shop retailers around the world. And that means the kind of feedback that they get about what we need in the shop to be successful goes into all of the design and engineering decisions that they make when they're creating these machines that are basically the heart of your business. And this is why La Marzocco is at the heart of some of the world's best coffee bars because of that reputation that they have. An example of this would be like the KB90 espresso machine that has straight-in locking portafilters. They invented this technology to solve an ergonomic problem for baristas. There's scales in the drip tray that allows for a greater degree of accuracy in your extractions. Auto flush in the group heads allows for increased cleanliness and faster workflow. And that's just one example of so many different types of machines they have that can fit your needs exactly. La Marzocco is available to help you make the right decisions for your cafe. So go ahead and email them info@lamarzocousa.com, and be sure to check out their website also at lamarzocousa.com. Today's episode is also brought to you by Espressly, who's creating custom branded mobile apps for your business. Espressly is all about streamlining the process of mobile ordering for your customers and making this simple for you, making it simple for your guests, extending your brand out into the hand of your customer so you're not just a dot on a map. And with Espressly, it's a no-risk model. There's no setup or development fees. You get a drive-through payment scanner. There's receipt and label printing capabilities. All the data is stored in the app itself, and it integrates with some of the world's best payment processing systems, including Square. So if you've been thinking about mobile and apps for your business, then I definitely recommend you check them out. Start a conversation today and find out more information over at espressly.co. That's espressly.co. Okay, everybody. Well, today I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the process of refinement. And I wanted to give you some analogy that I've been thinking about for a while. A long time ago, I made a table for our kitchen, and I got some help from my father-in-law who rebuilds and restores antique furniture. So it was a fun project to do with him, and a great memory as well. But one of the things that I learned in this process happened when we were sanding. Now, up until this point, we had selected the boards we were using. We had to make all the measurements. You put these boards together, you glue them up in clamps, and you have to wait. And there's lots of different steps when you're creating something that is going to be essentially just a functional piece of furniture used day in and day out. And in a lot of ways, this is similar to what we do with our coffee shops. We're creating something that is going to be used by the public day in and day out. There's a lot of intentionality. There's a lot of measuring and assembling of parts and pieces that will make the best sense for the people that are going to come to our coffee shop, or in this case, the people that are going to be sitting at the table. Things like, okay, how high does the table need to be and for people's legs to be comfortable underneath the table when they're eating? And so there's lots of different, like going in and out of the house, testing different heights for the legs and all of that fun stuff. So there's a lot of due diligence that's paid to that process of assembling something that will be used hopefully for a very, very long time if you're using good materials and you're going through a good process. Now, in the process of sanding this table, there is a point at which your arms get tired and you feel it, and it feels smooth. It feels really good. And you dust it off and you stand back and you feel pretty proud of yourself. At least I did, of course. But this is when my father-in-law brought out the spray bottle of water, and we sprayed the entire surface of the sanded piece. And some of you out there who might do any kind of woodworking might know what this is doing. But here's what happened. After about a few minutes, maybe about 10 minutes or so, all of a sudden that smooth piece of wood turned rough. And the reason why is because all of the little splinters that were pushed down by the sandpaper but not sanded out had absorbed the water and, in a reaction to it, curled up into the air, exposing yet more wood that needed to be sanded down. Now, the reason that this is really important is because if you don't do this and you start finishing the top of your table, that stuff is going to start to pull up on its own because it's wet, because it's taking on moisture, be it from the water or from the finish. It would ruin the process of finishing that table. And the point at which I thought, yes, we're done, we've done a lot of work, there was yet another step to just be sure. And it's tempting to just say, okay, I've done enough. My arms are tired. By all indicators, this looks like a job that is done. So we're ready to put the finishing touches on it. But of course, the water exposed the hidden areas that needed to be sanded down as well. Now, how this relates to coffee shops. There's a few ways. One, of course, when you're starting a coffee shop, you want to have a healthy level of curiosity about whether or not you have actually done enough research or investigation as to not just if you've measured correctly, or you've got the right concept, but you've really thought more in depth and put the water on the work, so to speak, to raise up issues that might come up. Thinking about maybe a few months down the line or a couple of years down the line, naturally visualizing what might happen and predicting what might happen will help you create something better in the beginning that will already be prepared for what will happen. But once you get a coffee shop started, there's other things that you're going to build in your coffee shop that will like processes and systems and policies and things like that. And those also need to go through that same process. You will measure, you will assemble, you will sand and refine it. But there's one more step that I recommend, and that is putting the water on the work to see if anything else gets raised up. It could be that your baristas have feedback about a particular policy that is very valuable, and those issues would have come up anyway, just like the splinters of wood would have come up. It's better to get those things out of the way first and make sure that you've got those things evened out as much as possible for when you launch something, for when you iterate, for when you go into the next stage of evolution. And really what this is doing is setting you and everyone else up for success, and it is respecting the amount of work that has gone into the process up to this point. And it's disrespectful, I think, to yourself and maybe others to just rush something into existence or not take a beat or two and put the water on the work and test it to see. It's brave to do it in some cases because it causes us to have to swallow our ego because we feel, just like I felt, I worked hard at this. My arms are tired. I went through varying levels of roughness of sandpaper. I felt like I had done a thorough job. And it can feel kind of defeating to spray water on it. And even just the process of squeezing a spray bottle feels trivial compared to the amount of work that I did. And just that little bit of water was like, you have more work to do. And so take it on the chin, take it as a part of the process and go back. And you can do that process again just to make sure and really get it down so that the finished work feels a lot more solid. I know for a fact that the table I have in my kitchen went through that process a couple of times so that when we did put the final finishes down, I don't have to worry. And I see that all the time when it comes to coffee shops. The less we investigate, the less we go through this process of quote unquote putting the water on the work, the more we are kind of eaten up inside with the unknowns. We kind of know that we didn't do as much as we could, but we're hoping for the best. And we told ourselves the story that we just didn't have time to do that. We just needed to get it done so it would be off our plate. But now, if we're honest, we're wishing that we kind of spent more time and we did a little bit more research, or we took some more time hiring. We asked a few more questions. We actually called those references and talked to them. You can extend this out to a ton of different areas of the coffee shop. But my advice to you today is this: whatever you're creating right now, whether it's the coffee shop itself or different elements of the shop, like hiring or processes and policies, etc., put the water on the work. You may have worked really hard up until this point, but honor yourself by making sure that what's going to be put into place is truly tested and will stand up over time. And that requires that you just submit yourself to those final few steps of refinement, and you'll end up with something solid that you and everyone else can use in confidence. So I hope that this was a helpful talk today, and I will see you here next week on another edition of Shift Break, from keys to the shop.